Hi, my name's Stuart Morris, and I thought we'd look at some of the business aspects and questions that we get from people who are thinking about training to be a celebrant. One of the first ones is, how do I make money from Celebrancy? And the answer is by charging for what you do. It's very easy to get tied up or caught up in the idea that as celebrants, we're all about love and we should be doing things for love. And you get the same sort of argument in the musician industry. You come and play for our event for free and get free exposure. Well, if we all did things for free exposure and for love, we wouldn't be able to pay our bills. And so in the UK, generally at the moment, what we can charge is, for funerals, defined by the Church of England and what the Church of England charges for a priest to take a funeral, which isn't fair, it isn't like for like, it isn't comparing apples with apples, because what the church's pricing structure is fundamentally based around the priest turning up, taking the funeral and going home. And they charge about, depending where you are in the country, about £220, £230 for that, including travel expenses. Of course, as a celebrant, we're doing an awful lot more work than that. We're probably doing somewhere in the region of between 6 and 9 hours work of travelling to meet the family, sitting with the family, gathering all the information, travelling home, writing the funeral, back and forth a few times, just checking that we've got all the facts right, then travelling to the funeral venue, delivering the funeral and going home. So there's an awful lot more work, and one of the things that we as an industry need to do is educate both the public and the funeral directors that what a celebrant offers is a very different ceremony to a standard prayer book funeral from the Church of England. But for the moment, most of us charge somewhere between £200 and £250 for a funeral. Now, if you look at that, say you're doing 3, maybe 4 funerals a week, multiply that out, that's about £33,000 a year. Obviously, you've got some costs coming out of that. You've got your travel expenses, you've got the cost of laptops and printer ink and paper and a printer, mobile phone, all of those things. So that's not your take-home pay, that's the overall income for a celebrant doing that sort of work. And obviously you may not want to work full time, you may only want to be doing 1 or 2 a week, or you may actually be working much harder. And I do know celebrants who are doing 7 or more funerals a week, and you can do the maths and you can see that could be quite lucrative. But it's also very, very, very hard work, because you've got the emotional load as well. And different celebrants offer different levels of customization. We've got celebrants who write every funeral service completely from a blank sheet of paper from the ground up, so it takes many, many hours of work. And other celebrants who reuse large sections of the ceremony, and therefore those bits aren't being written custom for every ceremony. The eulogy, though, must always be written from scratch for that particular family. So that's kind of answered that question for the funeral side. Now let's look at the wedding side. With weddings, it's very, very different. There is no other body defining what a wedding can cost, and some couples want something very simple, just a few friends and a quiet glade in the woods and a short ceremony. But you might still be working with them for 18 months between getting booked and the delivery of the ceremony, with back and forth rewriting and gathering more information. So it's still a fair amount of work. The other end, you might be doing a very grand wedding somewhere in a stately home that's requiring quite a lot of planning and preparation. Or you might be doing something at a chateau in the south of France, in which case there's travel expenses and accommodation to be factored in there as well. I think generally somewhere between £500 and £1,500 for a wedding is the range, and I'm be aware that this is always very different depending on the kind of market you're in, the kind of budget the couple have, what it is they're looking for, how complex it is. I took a Star Wars themed wedding a little while ago, and that required quite a lot of research because we'd got quotes from all of the Star Wars films sprinkled through the wedding ceremony, and so they needed to be researched. And of course I had the labour of love of rewatching the entire series. So there's joy and fun to be had in your researching of a ceremony as you're putting it together. And obviously, if it's a destination wedding somewhere else, then the couple should be factoring your travel expenses in as well, unless you happen to already be wherever that destination is. Baby namings, again, it's how long is it going to take you, both in the preparation and the delivery, how much is there. And actually, as we'll go through when you come on our course, we'll explain the maths behind this. But I generally work as a rule of thumb that the headline cost is somewhere between £40 and £50 an hour. So for a baby naming, there's the half an hour of the ceremony, there's the half hour you're going to be there before that, there's an hour of consultation with the family initially, and probably another hour's worth of work in the writing and the prep. So that's easily 4 hours, and so £200 would be a starting point for a basic baby naming ceremony. And it may well be more. And there's nothing stopping you charging for travel in there as well. But that £40 to £50 an hour is only a starting point. And remember, that's not what you're getting paid, that's the headline amount that you're charging. And from that, you've got your travel, you've got your maintenance of laptops and printers and all the rest of it. So it isn't that you are walking away with that in your pocket. And if you're making this is your full-time thing, then you may well be paying tax on that as well. And some people have said to me, well, that's £40, £50 an hour, that's quite a lot. Have you tried getting a plumber for less than £70 an hour in some areas of the country, even if you can get one? So it's worth bearing in mind that this is not what you're getting paid, but it's what you're charging, and it's not unreasonable. So now that I've looked at what celebrants charge and how much we can earn, let's have a look at how does one become a celebrant in the UK. At the moment, celebrancy is a largely unregulated profession, and that means that there are all sorts of dodgy characters in the industry because there's no regulation. And so I think it's very important to do your research, to thoroughly look at all of the training providers and to read the small print. What's included, what's not included? What's their style of training? Do you like the people you see? Is the website refreshing? Does it talk to you in a way that makes sense? Or does it try and hide the actual costs of becoming a celebrant with that organisation? It's also very important that the feel of the organisation is something that you can join in with. Is their ethos something that you feel supported by and encouraged by? And that's something that I think is very, very important. You're going to spend a lot of time and energy and money with these people, and you need it to be something that you're going to really enjoy and get a lot out of. When you've found an organisation that you like the feel of, I think it's very important also to have a conversation with somebody. Is there a phone number you can call or an email address you can email and ask to speak to one of the trainers about you training to be a celebrant? And that's something that we at the International College of Professional Celebrants really encourage. We love hearing from prospective trainees because the right answer may be that it's not right for you. And that's as much a good outcome of a quick phone call as that it is the right thing for you. We'd hate you to spend money and a week of your time coming to train with us only to find out on the Tuesday afternoon that actually this isn't really for you. That would be an awful waste of your time and our time. The other thing looking at training is it a holistic view of training? Does it look at setting up your business? Does it look at marketing yourself? Does it look at weddings, funerals, baby namings, and all of the ceremonies? And that's something that I feel is very important. A celebrant who has trained in all the areas of celebrancy is much more likely to be able to make a good living out of it. Just think of all the wedding celebrants whose income completely disappeared during 2020, the COVID year. The other thing is, so many people have come to the training course saying, I'm really interested in funerals. And by the end of the week, saying, actually, I'm also really interested in weddings, or maybe even completely flipped, that actually they now want to major on weddings. Or the other way around. They were so focused on weddings, but now they realise that funerals are an incredibly rewarding and enjoyable part of the profession. Being able to mix and match will enable you to manage your work balance better and be much more enjoyable. Of course, there are many celebrants who've thought they wanted to focus on weddings, trained and absolutely all out there on weddings. But I know many, many people who do, even if they focus on one area of the profession, that they do still do ceremonies in the other sides of the profession as well. I'm mainly funerals, but the number of weddings that I've picked up from couples who were at a funeral that I took for their loved one and afterwards have said to me, we're thinking of getting married and we'd like you to be our celebrant. And then when I've taken their wedding, we've been able to link back to their grandparents' funeral or whatever it was. Wouldn't it have been lovely if Grandma was here? And I've actually spoken about Grandma in the funeral, so I know something about her. That's one of the reasons. I think the other thing is, celebrancy isn't just one or the other. The rites of passage are really, really important to us as human beings. It's part of who we are. And so to look at it in the round gives us the ability to be a much better celebrant in the area that we are focusing in, rather than if we just train in that area. As always, as I said earlier, ICPC are more than happy to answer your questions, either by email or on Facebook or with a phone call. Do get in touch with us and let us help you make this decision. For many of us, it's been a really positive and life-changing decision.